Shedeur Sanders last night, the most watched preseason game in NFL history. Time to get into the Shedeur Sanders. Now,
what if I told you the most watched NFL preseason game in the last decade didn't feature Mahomes, Burrow, or Brady, but a rookie who hadn't even played a real NFL snap yet? 2.2 million people tuned in to watch Shedeur Sanders make his debut. That's not just big, that's historic. More than any other program on TV that day, across every channel. No playoffs, no Super Bowl stakes, just one kid stepping onto the field and breaking the internet. But then, just as the buzz hit a fever pitch, he disappeared, benched, silenced, written off with the excuse of a mysterious injury no one seemed able to explain. What followed? A total collapse. Ratings tanked. Fans revolted. Advertisers panicked.
Shedeur Sanders' NFL debut was the highest rating NFL preseason game in the last decade with 2.2 million viewers. Absolutely insane. And when he starts for his first game, you can double and triple that number as well.
So what happened behind the scenes? Was it fear, ego, politics, or something deeper and uglier? Because this wasn't just a quarterback decision. This was a franchise snubbing its future, a league fumbling its biggest rising star, and a fan base asking the same question night after night. Why isn't Shedeur Sanders starting? Let's break down how one preseason game turned into a full-blown football revolution, and why the Browns, the NFL, and every major media network are sweating bullets right now. The moment Shedeur Sanders stepped onto that field, the numbers exploded, and not just on the scoreboard. 2.2 million viewers. That's more than most regular season games get. More than NBA playoff matches. More than primetime dramas. More than anything else on television that night. A preseason game with zero playoff consequences suddenly became the most watched broadcast on any network. Just let that sink in. Just let that sink in.
Sanders moves the needle. Even though he inexplicably continues to be fourth on the Browns QB depth chart, he is certainly not fourth in terms of ratings. Listen to this. Shedeur Sanders' NFL debut this weekend drew 2.2 million viewers. It was the most watched preseason game of the decade on NFL Network. But even more impressively, it was also the #1 program across all of television. That's both cable and broadcast. And if you think it's just viewership, think again. This was a road game for the Browns in Carolina in a stadium that holds over 75.
And the craziest part, it wasn't even a home game. The Browns were on the road in Carolina, but you wouldn't know it by looking at the crowd. Over 71,000 fans showed up, many of them wearing Sanders jerseys, chanting his name like he was already a legend, not a late-round rookie. From the opening drive, every throw, every movement, every little gesture was electric. ESPN was replaying his highlights on a loop. Sports Twitter, scratch that. All of social media, lit up like it was the Super Bowl. And it wasn't just the diehards or NFL junkies. People who hadn't watched a full football game in years suddenly knew this kid's name. He was trending on TikTok. Teenagers started quoting his stats. Casuals were Googling where he came from and why he wasn't already a starter. Because that night didn't just belong to the Browns or the Panthers. It belonged to Shedeur, and the NFL felt the shift like a tremor under its feet.
Shedeur proved that the game of life is less about the scoreboard and more about the narrative that you refuse to let others write.
Because what happened next? It would turn one of the most exciting breakout moments in years into one of the biggest controversies in recent NFL history. Then, just like that, it all crashed. The same team that lucked into a ratings goldmine decided to bury it at the bottom of the depth chart. With barely a warning, Shedeur Sanders was benched. Not rotated, not eased out, fully pulled. The excuse? An injury. Details? None. No limp. No report. Not a single confirmed sprain, tear, strain, or sneeze. Fans knew something wasn't right. And when they flipped on the next game to see Dillon Gabriel jogging out onto the field like it was business as usual, the switchboard lit up. Ratings plummeted overnight. Gone. Like someone yanked the plug and watched everything go dark. The NFL Network, which had just celebrated its best preseason numbers in a decade, suddenly found itself being outperformed by late-night reruns of golf and old crime shows. Fans? Livid.
Tonight, Shedeur Sanders made the entire National Football League look like a whole bunch of petty fools. In some cases, racist fools. In many cases, Deion despising fools. Tonight at Carolina, Shedeur Sanders made all those teams that had 143 chances to draft him before he went 144th. He shamed all of them, including the Cleveland Browns, who finally took him in the 5th.
Social media launched into a full-on revolt. Hashtags like Start Shedeur and Bench the Browns were trending by the second quarter. Jerseys once worn with pride were now showing up in backyard bonfires across Ohio. Subscriptions to streaming services canceled. Football Twitter was in full meltdown mode. And Browns fans, they weren't just mad, they were humiliated. Because when your rookie quarterback becomes the reason millions are tuning in, only for management to yank him in favor of someone no one asked for, it's more than just a bad coaching call. It's sabotage. Self-inflicted, unnecessary, and completely out of touch with reality. And this wasn't just about fans losing a player. In their eyes, the Browns had just fumbled their entire future over a mysterious injury no one believed. But things were only getting worse. Because people started asking the question the Browns didn't want to answer. Was this really about football? Injured? That was the word.
Guess how many people showed up to watch this Browns-Panthers preseason game? Over 71,000 people were there, and they weren't there to see two bad teams play all their backups. They were all there to see this man. Think about that. That's how much juice Shedeur's got. And then on top of all that, he lived up to the hype and showed out in his debut. That, my friends, is aura. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be a great player. It's way too early to determine that. But what I will tell you is love him or hate him, this man is...
That's all they gave us. No diagnosis, no footage, no hit, no limp. 1 minute, Shedeur was lighting up highlight reels. And the next, he was in a hoodie on the sidelines, holding a clipboard like a glorified intern. The only thing truly injured? The Browns' reputation. Fans weren't buying it. Reporters couldn't verify it. There wasn't a doctor's quote, no practice report, not even a tweet from the team's medical staff. Just vague PR talk from the front office, acting like keeping their most valuable player out of the game was no big deal. Really? The guy who just turned a random preseason matchup into the most televised NFL game in 10 years is suddenly unavailable, and we're not supposed to raise an eyebrow? The whispers started immediately. They're afraid he's outshining the starters. It's politics. The front office doesn't want Deion's kid making them look bad. Is this about ego or something worse?
My goodness, the Browns just released their unofficial depth chart heading into week 2, and Shedeur Sanders is still listed at 4th. 14 of 23, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns. What else is he supposed to do? They gave him an opportunity, and he showed it.
On talk shows, in Reddit threads, on bar stools across Cleveland, people all came to the same conclusion. This wasn't about protecting Shedeur. This was about protecting the people threatened by him. See, there's nothing more dangerous in the NFL than a young, charismatic QB who wasn't supposed to make it this fast. especially when he pulls in more eyeballs than the entire team combined, sells more jerseys than the veterans, and becomes the face of your franchise overnight, without even asking permission. What the Browns called precaution, millions of fans called a cover-up. And that's when the deeper questions started surfacing, the kind the league didn't want to touch. But before we get into that controversy, let's not ignore the proof everyone overlooked while they were busy running excuses. Because the Shedeur effect, that doesn't rely on rumors. It's backed by numbers, cameras, merch sales, and millions of viewers.
Joe Flacco starting week 1, okay, that's fine. He's a veteran. I understand that. But Kenny Pickett and Dillon Gabriel should not be above Shedeur Sanders. Absolutely not. Dillon Gabriel has done nothing. Shedeur Sanders already proved himself. This is absolutely ridiculous. The Shedeur Sanders disrespect makes no sense. I'm scared once Deshaun Watson gets cleared, the Browns are going to go with Watson and Shedeur Sanders is going to ride the bench. Someone please trade for him.
Here's the truth the Browns front office refuses to admit. Shedeur Sanders isn't just a good story. He's a number tsunami. That debut, it didn't just go viral, it shifted the culture. Over 71,000 fans packed into that Carolina stadium. Not because they wanted to see two rebuilding teams run backup plays. No one was paying scalper prices to watch Dillon Gabriel roll out screen passes. They came for one reason, Shedeur. And when his name hit the starting lineup, so did the cash flow. Merchandise sold out in hours. Jerseys flew off shelves like concert t-shirts. Online engagement doubled for Browns media channels. ESPN cut in mid-program to show highlights from a preseason game. On TikTok, his clips weren't just trending, they were owning the Explore page. You don't get that from a rookie 5th-round pick, unless he's built different. While veterans out here hoping to make SportsCenter's top 10, Shedeur's arm, attitude, and aura were being edited into highlight mashups with 100K views before the game ended. And when word spread that he wasn't playing, it was like someone hit the lights. Stadium seats emptied faster. Viewers plicked out. The only thing overflowing was the fans' frustration. NFL Network's viewership took a nosedive. Sponsors started sweating. Commentators started adjusting their talking points mid-broadcast. It wasn't subtle, it was immediate. Because in today's league, storytelling is currency. Highlights are marketing. Buzz equals dollars. And Shedeur Sanders prints money. The Browns may not understand that, but the rest of the world does. And that's why the NFL, yes, the entire league, was suddenly facing a crisis far bigger than one benched rookie. Let's be real, this isn't just a Browns problem anymore. It's an NFL problem. And they're fumbling harder than ever. Because in today's world, talent alone isn't enough. You need a star. Someone who jumps off the screen. Someone who makes people who don't even like football stop scrolling just to see what he does next. And that's exactly what Shedeur Sanders brings. He's not just a quarterback. He's a highlight machine. A walking marketing campaign wrapped in swagger and storyline. You think the NFL's media team didn't know what they had? Please. They already had full graphics packages made, ads lined up, sponsors writing checks with zero hesitation, luxury brands, sneakers, tech deals, those weird insurance commercials with the talking lizards? Yeah, they were all in because Shedeur sells. He's young, he's charismatic, and he carries the Sanders name, a last name that already changed a generation of football. And now, the NFL has his son lighting up stadiums, bringing in casual TikTok fans, and fueling sports media clicks like Tom Brady in 2007. And what does the league do? Let him sit, while Dillon Gabriel throws checkdowns like a substitute math teacher. Shedeur's on the bench, holding a clipboard, while everyone from Madden streamers to 9-year-olds in Sanders jerseys are begging to watch him play. This isn't about letting him develop. It's not about protecting him. It's about control. ego, and straight-up outdated thinking. Because here's what the NFL can't admit out loud. Shedeur Sanders doesn't need the league. The league needs him. Without him, the Browns are just a punchline. The broadcast is background noise. The game is forgettable. With him, viewership spikes, brands activate, and football feels cool again. The NFL hasn't had someone who moves culture since Mahomes. And now, they have Sanders. And instead of letting him cook, they've got him parked like a backup extra in a system that prays he stays quiet. But keep ignoring him. Keep keeping him off the field. And watch how fast the viewers follow. If there's one thing the Cleveland Browns are better at than losing games, it's sabotaging themselves. This franchise has turned fumbling potential into a sport of its own, one they've absolutely mastered. And just when it looked like they might have caught a break, just when the universe handed them something special, what did they do? They benched it. It's classic Cleveland, like clockwork. Let's rewind a bit, shall we? Johnny Manziel, hyped as the savior, became a circus. Brandon Whedon, a 28-year-old rookie that somehow confused the playbook with a phone book. Baker Mayfield, more State Farm commercials than playoff wins. Every time, the Browns get a glimmer of hope, and every time, they blow it, either by mismanaging talent, hiring the wrong people, or simply being so allergic to success that it's practically a team tradition. And now, they have Shedeur Sanders, a walking spotlight, a human trending topic, someone who could single-handedly flip the script on decades of dysfunction. And they're treating him like scout team material. If it sounds ridiculous, that's because it is. He has the stats, he has the tape, he has the clout, and most importantly, he has the people, fans, viewers, eyeballs, money, energy. What more do you want? And yet, he's still QB4 on a team that once willingly started Seneca Wallace. This isn't just about who's under center. This is about who this team chooses to bet on. The Browns had gold fall into their lap and somehow convinced themselves it was just another rock. Their decision isn't based on performance. It's based on fear. Fear of shaking the system. Fear of hype overpowering hierarchy. But what the Browns fail to realize is that they're not just protecting their vets. They're protecting their irrelevance. And they're doing it proudly. Because rooting for the Browns has never really been about hope. It's been about survival. Now let's talk about the conversation nobody at the NFL wants to have out loud, but the internet refuses to ignore. Because while fans are shouting about stats, marketing potential, and star power, there's a darker, more uncomfortable wave building beneath everything. Is Shedeur Sanders being benched for football reasons or something else? We're talking about a kid with legacy DNA, charisma off the charts, and actual performance to back it up. But despite all of that, he's sitting fourth on the Browns depth chart, behind guys who couldn't sell out a backyard barbecue, let alone a football stadium. And now, like clockwork, speculation has surfaced. Is the league resisting another outspoken black quarterback with a massive following? Is this really just about managing locker room egos? Or is there quiet backlash against Dillon Sanders, his father, being so unapologetically bold about racial pride and changing the old guard? Would a rookie with identical numbers and buzz, but a different look and background, already be QB1? Let's be clear, nobody's claiming facts here. But the pattern? It's hard to ignore. Fans are making side-by-side comparisons, and it's not looking good. Quarterbacks with less hype, fewer stats, and zero audience poll are being moved into starting roles, while Shedeur gets sidelined with only vague answers and odd silences. Social media has been blowing up. Reddit, YouTube comments, sports blogs, they're not pulling punches. This is a classic case of trying to humble the confident black QB. If it was a white guy putting up these numbers and pulling TV ratings like this, he'd have his own Subway commercial by now. They don't want another Cam Newton or Colin Kaepernick situation. Someone who speaks too loud and shines too bright. And whether or not you agree with any of that, this is the conversation that's happening, and it's loud. Because when millions of people see the hype and feel the electricity, but it keeps getting shut down, they start to connect dots, whether the league likes it or not. Shedeur Sanders didn't force this discussion on the NFL. The league's silence did. And the longer they keep him tucked away at QB4 while failing to provide any legitimate explanation, the louder those questions will get, the louder the speculation becomes, and the harder it'll be for the NFL to shake off the criticism without showing real, tangible accountability. Because in 2025, ignoring this kind of noise doesn't make it go away. It just proves fans were right to ask in the first place. This isn't just about one depth chart, or one preseason, or one questionable benching. This is about a decision that will be remembered, not just by fans years from now, by sports historians, by every NFL team that's ever let ego get in the way of greatness. Right now, while the Cleveland Browns sit around pretending Dillon Gabriel is the answer, other NFL teams are watching closely, and they're not just watching Shedeur's tape, they're watching the Browns fumble this opportunity in real time, because the second that man hits free agency, it's over. Every GM with half a brain is going to jump and fast, because Shedeur isn't just a quarterback, he's a movement. The kind you build a brand around. The kind that changes how people talk about football, who tunes in, and why. Make no mistake, front offices around the league are hoping the Browns continue screwing this up. They're drooling at the idea of Cleveland undervaluing a generational marketing force masquerading as a fifth-round pick. They're praying Shedeur keeps warming benches, because the minute he's released, he's gone, and he won't look back. And when that happens, the Browns won't just lose a player. They'll lose the only thing they've had in 2 decades that made fans believe again. And their punishment won't come from the media or from Peyton Manning roasting them on ESPN. It'll come from silence, empty seats, blank jerseys, broadcasts nobody watches. All while Shedeur lights it up in some other city, with a franchise smart enough to recognize they were handed lightning in a bottle and didn't try to put the lid back on it. The Browns had their chance. They had their future. And they let it rot on the bench while fans begged them to wake up. Years from now, people won't say, "Remember when the Browns discovered Shedeur Sanders?" They'll say, "Remember when the Browns had him and still blew it?" The Shedeur Sanders effect is bigger than one game. It's bigger than preseason. It's even bigger than the Cleveland Browns, which, let's be honest, isn't that hard to do. Because when a fifth-round rookie becomes the most watched player in the league before he's even taken a regular season snap, that's not luck. That's not hype. That's impact. And yet, what does the NFL do with its most viral, most marketable, most culturally relevant new star? They bench him. While sports media explodes, jerseys sell out, and fans show up just to see number 5 take the field, the league treats him like background noise. And here's what they don't understand, or maybe refuse to admit. In 2025, football isn't just about throwing spirals. It's about attention, influence, culture, energy. And no one in the league right now brings that storm quite like Shedeur Sanders. But here's the part that should terrify every executive, every marketing rep, every suit behind a conference table. He doesn't need the NFL. The NFL needs him. And the day he realizes that fully, everything changes. Right now, this league is standing at a crossroads, and the Browns just became the cautionary tale. You had the chance to ride the wave, become relevant again, turn decades of disappointment into locked-in legacy. Instead, you blinked. And while you were busy protecting egos and clinging to outdated systems, America moved on without you. The fans tuned out. The sponsor sat back. The fire dimmed. All because you couldn't recognize what was standing right in front of you. A game changer, a ratings magnet, a walking ticket sale. You benched your future to protect your past. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the most Cleveland thing imaginable.